Chelsea St. Pierre for the Suburban newspaper. A walk following a demonstration in front of the Lachine Hospital for the hospital. A calling on the government to reopen the hospital's ICU is taking place in Lachine this Saturday. Hundreds have attended. Elected officials, doctors, and nurses are calling for the reopening of the ICU, saying that it is urgent in order for the emergency room to function at full capacity. Advocates say that to save the ICU at Lachine Hospital is to save lives. The SPVM provided services to ensure the safe passage of pedestrians walking around the block for the Lachine Hospital's ICU reopening event.
Intensive care unit, patients arrive at our emergency room by ambulance or other means, are rapidly stabilized, and then have to be transferred to other hospitals with an intensive care unit. We know that many hospitals do not have intensive care units that are available, so the patients end up being parked in an emergency room in another hospital. Studies show that when you delay care for patients who are critically ill, there's an increase in death rates. The Society of Critical Care Medicine, which represents over 16,000 intensivists in over 100 countries, shows that intensive care units save lives and saves money.
We need the MUHC and the government to recognize a 7-bed unit, level 1, with the Annex 29 designation.
After everything that you've explained here today, what is it that is misunderstood? Why is there a misunderstanding as to why the hospital needs an ICU? It's obvious to everybody standing here today. So why is the MUHC not recognizing this issue as a dire issue that's an emergency to fix immediately for the Lachine Hospital's operations?
It doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. Intensive care units save lives and save money. I think that the government must somehow be misinformed, not aware of it. For some reason, there must be missing communication amongst the administration of the MUHC. It's clear if we get a 7-bed level 1 designation, Annex 29, will attract the doctors and the nurses. I know I've spoken to doctors who are intensivists who want to work at our hospital, but they will not work at about a quarter of the salary. We need to give people fair pay for their work, and the MUHC needs to be made aware of this, as well as the government.
Particularly with this expansion that's been announced today by the Mayor Maja Vadonovic here in Lachine. I mean, it's very optimistic, it's promising for Lachine. However, an intensive care unit, as everyone mentioned here today, is the heart of the hospital. How will the hospital expand without an intensive care unit available for patients?
It doesn't make any sense. The government's putting over $220 million in an expansion program, and in that expansion program there's a 7-bed intensive care unit. But we already have a 7-bed unit right here, which has been closed since December of 2020.
In the existing hospital.
It exists, and it's empty. It's empty, but it's there and it's available, and we need to start right away. We can't wait for the new unit, because all that we're doing is we're having patients come here. The emergency room doctors act as dispatch people, stabilizing and then calling, spending hours on the phone, transferring people elsewhere. And delays in treatment leads to increased bad outcomes, including deaths. So the government and the MUHC must be made aware of this if they're not already, and they need to give us a 7-bed level 1 care unit.
Our hospital needs to serve our citizen at the highest level. When I see the occupancy of the other hospital around this hospital, and we see our emergency room that's only at 60 or 65% capacity, I said, why this hospital cannot help every hospital close to this one.
Real community hospital needs to have a whole bunch of services, and the
ICU.
Yes, the ICU is an important part of it. So we are marching for that today. It's an emergency for all. It's for all the people from all the West Island of Montreal, and especially in Lachine.
In 2015, the Montreal Chest Institute was closing its doors in order to move its facilities over to the Glen. And at that time, 17 patients who are considered to be, actually Pierre Paquette had highlighted it in September of 2019 in his report, that these patients require the highest level of care. Highest level of care. That's generally more than what's generally offered in a CHSLD. And they were sent here primarily to Lachine because we happen to be one of the few CHSLDs that happened to be attached directly to a hospital that had intensive care unit to care for these folks in case of emergency. So it is vital to them. Like, it is really literally a matter of life and death. They don't have minutes or hours to be transported somewhere else. Within minutes, they're dead.
We not only have the community and doctors and nurses here locally, we have a resolution of the National Assembly a year ago which guaranteed all services, and it was unanimously resolved and passed, guaranteeing all services of the community hospital.
At which point the emergency room was reopened.
The emergency room was reopened, and we're waiting for our intensive care. And that's why we went public. This is totally not understandable, beyond any comprehension, that they haven't reopened our intensive care unit.